Well, hello, everybody. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you're having a great weekend wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I'm Tomas Garza. I'm the host of A Course in Miracles 365 Awakening to Love here on Enlightened World Network. Welcome to the show, which we've been doing for the past 6 months. It's exciting. It's been 6 months now since we launched this show, which is almost every day here. And it is really fun. Yeah. Um, that's the one word that I would really choose to describe this because it's fun for me to show up and share my own experience with A Course in Miracles, which is, by the way, the foundational centerpiece of my spiritual practice. It may or may not be for you, and it doesn't matter if it's not. There's plenty to be gained from studying it, and plenty, for sure, to be gained by watching this live stream. So we've been at it for 6 months, and one of the things that I really love is the ability, because this is live, to interact with all of you. Now, if you catch this on the replay, then I want to invite you to feel welcome to say hello in the comments. And if you have questions, if you have any any comments that you'd like to make, to leave a comment here in the comment thread. That's one of the beauties of doing this and broadcasting and streaming to Facebook Live is we have this opportunity. So whether you catch this live and in person right now in real time or not doesn't make any difference. In fact, there is no such thing as real time, but it's a funny saying, isn't it? Yeah, I would say that. So let's uh, let's take a look here today at a really in-depth idea and a really fun idea. It's in-depth and it's fun at the same time. It's fitting that we're here on a Saturday having this conversation. So, as you settle in here, this is something that is a bit of review because one workbook lesson here in A Course in Miracles builds on the previous idea, and they keep building and building and building in a cohesive thought system where we learn a little bit at a time because this is a self-study curriculum. We go at our own pace. This happens to be the pace that we're going at this live stream. Now, if you're working on the workbook independently, you might be on a different lesson, which is absolutely fine. So, what we're doing today is we've arrived at lesson 126, which says, all that I give is given to myself. Mm. All that I give is given to myself. We've seen as a lesson to give and to receive are one in truth, and they are. To give is to receive. Now, this is an idea that sounds perfectly obvious, doesn't it? I mean, you may wonder why so much is written about it. Why does the workbook return to this idea of giving and receiving being exactly the same thing again and again in so many different ways in different parts of our journey together? Well, spirituality, truth, is very simple. What happens in the world is we choose, and oh, it is a choice. It is a choice. We choose to make it hard. We choose to make giving and receiving complicated. We add layers of difficulty, degrees of difficulty. The Course calls it level confusion, which it really is. This simply means that we add all of our divisions onto something that's perfectly whole, perfectly true, and perfectly pure and loving as it is, as we are naturally. We obscure all that with divisions, with degrees of difficulty. Some things are better than others. Some things are higher, some lower. Some are more valuable, less valuable. You see, if you look, if you choose to look at this honestly, which I invite you to do, and encourage you to do, you see that we're making a value judgment all the time. We're labeling things. And this is what the Course calls level confusion because we label things, and some things are great in our eyes, other things are horrible in our eyes. And it's a constant judgment of our experience. So it makes sense on the surface that giving and receiving are one. All that I give to myself, because we know this to be true. When we truly extend love to someone, what comes back to us? Love. When we, on the other hand, extend hatred and scream at somebody and lash them with an F-bomb laced tirade, yeah, what comes back to us? The same kind of fear. We may get that tirade back. We'll get the same energy back that we give. It makes sense. In physics, every action has an equal but opposite reaction. That's saying the same thing. All that you give is given to yourself, be it loving or fearful. And in fact, those are the choices, as we've seen throughout the workbook. And this is true in the text, the manual for teachers, all components of A Course in Miracles. Everything in this thought system is designed to have us choose love in the present moment. The Course is all about changing our mind. It's about changing our perception. It's changing the way we see ourselves, changing the way we see others, changing the way we see the whole world and all of our existence. Because what we find out, and this is true of any authentic spiritual path, our existence with perception and degrees of difficulty, an apparent separation, everything that seems to be going on in the world is not reality. It's not what's real. Our identity in God, one with God, is what's real. If you're a student of Eastern philosophy, absolute truth is real. It's truth with a capital T. So what we need to do to be able to access that experience, in other words, to awaken or reawaken to the truth of who we really are, what we need to do is we need to do work here on this level where we appear to be and get ourselves unstuck, because we do appear to be stuck, do we not? Our lives may be full of beautiful moments and bliss and moments of intense love, joy, happiness. The next minute, somebody says something and you're horrified and it triggers an angry response. It's up, down, up, down. It's very sporadic. Nothing in this world lasts. Nothing in this world lasts. However, the truth of who we are is not of this world, and it doesn't depend on it in any way, shape, or form. All that we give is given to ourselves. So, as we've covered in some of the most recent lessons in the workbook, and as you know from reading about A Course in Miracles, you may have seen me talk about this on this live stream, and I hope that you have. We've been talking about it a lot lately, and that is the notion of forgiveness. So, another way, a different way of looking at it, it's really all the same way, is everything is in our minds. There's nothing outside of us. So, with everything being in our minds, everything that we see here in the world that we can touch, right? See, smell, experience with all of our senses, everything here is actually in our minds, including other people. So when we forgive other people, because everything's in our minds, we're forgiving ourselves. This is a radically different viewpoint than the world takes, by the way. If you're hearing this for the first time one hears this, it may, in fact, be shocking. And if it is, that's perfectly all right. It is completely foreign to the ego's thought system. That's separation. That's the layers of difficulty, degrees of difficulty, each of us supposedly having our own separate experience, running around, competing for what we deem to be scarce resources, scarcity, lack, frustration, fear, on and 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 on. This is very different. So everything is in our mind. What we're doing when we forgive someone else, what we're doing when we forgive a group of people or an object or the world itself, is we're forgiving a part of ourselves. Everyone else is symbolic of our unconscious guilt at separating from God in the first place, which never took place. Actually, it can't take place, but we're having the experience of being separate, aren't we? So forgiveness enters at the level where we find ourselves. When we forgive someone else, they don't even have to know about it. It can be all in our minds and hearts. You don't have to call somebody up. You don't have to email them. You don't have to text them or write them a long, elaborate letter. You don't have to sit down over coffee with them and clear the air. This can be done every moment of every day. What we're doing is other people are symbolizing our own frustration, our own guilt, our own fear. Everything is in our mind. Therefore, when we extend love to them, we extend love to ourselves. When we forgive ourselves, and we're overlooking the error of separation, which is the only error that we really need to work on. It's the big one that has us here, all apparently running around, having our own disjointed, separate existence. So, this is a very different approach to the one that presents itself in the world. And I've said on this live stream, and the course, by the way, says the same thing. I'm not adding anything to this material. Either someone is issuing a loving response, yes, or they're sending out a call for love. So when we forgive someone else, we're extending love. If you choose to see all behavior as either an extension of love or a call for love, then the appropriate loving, forgiving, kind, gentle response is to forgive. And what we're doing is we're not saying, hey, your behavior is okay, keep doing it. That's not what we're saying. We're overlooking error, and we're doing it on a level that we don't usually realize. Honestly, we're doing it on a deep, profound level. This is what the Course refers to as true forgiveness. This is what other commentators and people that write about the Course may refer to as quantum forgiveness. It's not forgiveness as we ordinarily think of it in the world. In the world, we don't really, in our heart of hearts, believe that all that I give to myself. If you deal out negativity to people, you get negativity back, right? If you deal out love and extend love, then that's what returns to you. You're giving that to yourself. All that I give to myself. Now, how do you come to a point? This is a really valid and legitimate question. How do you come to a point where you come to know this? Well, here you are, a spiritual practitioner, whatever your background is. Number one, you're more than welcome here. This is universal spirituality that we're talking about here. It's one presentation of what is, in fact, a universal curriculum. So parts of this may resonate and parts may not. Take what does. Yeah. What we're looking at here is you have an internal teacher. I have an internal teacher. Each of us has an internal teacher. Now, as a teacher myself, my job, and this is one that I happily and gladly continue to show up and do, is to help you get in touch with your own inner teacher. You'll notice this is not to get you to do the workbook every day. If you do, you'll benefit from it, no question, but that's not the goal. Yeah, it's not to get you to adopt a certain philosophy. It's not that. It's to help you get in touch with your inner teacher. So, how do we come to a point where we really live and breathe and recognize that to give and to receive are one in truth, to the point where we act that out, where we become fluidly forgiving more of the time? In other words, as often as we remember to do it. How does this become a habit? Well, spiritual practice. So here's what we do. We make time for ourselves. Doesn't matter how long. The workbook has certain suggestions that people truly get hung up on. They get very hung up on them because it suggests a certain number of practice periods a day and a certain length of time. It's a suggestion. I promise Jesus is not mad if it calls for a 15-minute practice period and you do it for 3. I mean, who cares, really, right? He's not mad. It's not the case. However, we beat ourselves up on that. So my point here is that it doesn't matter how much time or how often you truly do it. What matters is that you decide to do it. It's a decision, and you make the effort to do it. This is all about application. So how do you come to know that all that I give to myself? All that you give to yourself. How do you come to know that? Set aside some time, some peace and quiet time for you, whatever that looks like, whatever you need to do, and go within and ask your teacher. Ask your teacher to show you this, to demonstrate this to you, if you want. Ask your teacher to reveal this truth to you. And while you're at it, ask how you can put this into practice in your life. This is all about application of the idea. All that I give to myself. Ask your inner teacher, whoever that is. Now, it doesn't matter who you call your inner teacher, or if you have more than one, if you have a team, that's excellent. In A Course in Miracles, the teacher, the inner teacher, is often either Jesus or the voice for God. The term Holy Spirit in A Course in Miracles, I mean, you may be familiar with that term from Christianity, if you have that kind of a background, but the Holy Spirit is the voice for God, our inner teacher in A Course in Miracles. Now, whoever your inner teacher is, ask your teacher to show you the meaning of this. This is what you do. You get into a quiet space and you ask. As often as you need to, and as often as you think about it. And as you go through the day, it's very helpful to remind yourself of the idea of the day. That's why all of the workbook ideas are very short. All that I give to myself. And remind yourself of that as often as you remember to do so. Has tremendous, amazing benefit. So really, that is why in spiritual practice, there's such an emphasis on prayer. There's such an emphasis on meditation. So much depends on our getting out of our own way and deliberately deciding to make some quiet time for ourselves where we can hear the voice for God. In other words, where you can hear your own teacher. So I invite and encourage you 100% to make that time for yourself. So we've got several people that are joining us here today on Enlightened World Network. I want to say hello to you. Kristen, hi, how are you? And Patricia, Sophia, hi. All right. Yes, and a heart knowing cannot be explained by our limited vocabulary. Patricia, I agree. Yeah, this is an excellent point. Words don't cover the full range and breadth and depth of our experience, do they? I mean, they're really symbols for what they stand for. The word shirt is just a collection of sounds that we're agreeing refers to this thing that's on this thing called a body and in this thing called a room, and we're broadcasting, communicating via this thing called the internet. Yeah, there's a whole different level of understanding at the level of the heart, at the level of the mind, where it's beyond words. The ultimate truth is beyond words. And when you forgive, when you extend love, you may not see the results right away. It's very possible that you don't see the results right away, and you may not see them for a while. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to get a blinding flash of light. How your inner teacher communicates with you depends on the moment. Some of us get feedback in the form of thoughts that we're given. We might hear something on the radio or something that another person says that hits home for us and deeply resonates, and we recognize as a message. We might actually hear a voice. This is entirely possible. We might have someone say something to us. We might get a feeling and ideas that pop into our heads. There are many different forms of this communication, and everything here is operating on a couple of different levels, isn't it? I mean, here in the world, it's operating on the level of relative truth from Eastern philosophy, where we're all apparently running around separate and we're forgiving each other, we're loving each other and overlooking that separation. That's a deeper level. You know, right now, we appear to be forgiving another person on a deeper level, the level of the heart, the level of the mind. Yeah, absolute truth, we're acknowledging that we're one and have never been separated. So, A Course in Miracles operates on both levels, non dual and in duality. In fact, every spiritual tradition appears to be operating here in duality. Why? That's where we find ourselves. That's where we need a remedy like forgiveness. That's where we need prayer. It's where we need devotionals. It's where we need meditation and yoga and self inquiry and everything that is spiritual practice in this world. All right, guys, so this has been so much fun. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the comments. If you're catching me on the replay, please feel welcome to say hello and to leave a comment here. And I'll be back here on Monday with you. On Mondays, I'm doing what I call a special focus of the day. So we'll leave the workbook lessons just for one day. It'll be back and it's not going anywhere. And we focus on a special component of life itself, seen through the lens of spirituality and A Course in Miracles in particular. Okay, so everyone have a great weekend. Thank you so much for your comments, for your shares. If you know of people that would benefit from the programming here on this network, please feel free to hit the share button, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks so much.